Yeah, g'day YouTubers, Tinker O'Toole again here with another video. Today we're going to talk about the 10 degrees downward tilt. Is it dead or is it still living? Well, for still, if you're using a file, I don't recommend it. I think the reason being, people are sometimes, how do you judge 10 degrees on a file? You know, is this 10 degrees, is that 10 degrees? It can be all over the place, and I think that's the reason they don't recommend it. The other reason I think they don't recommend it on a file is also because it may only give you about 5%, if that, difference between filing 90 degrees and 10 degrees downward tilt. There may only be a small gain out of it. I haven't noticed any huge gains, that's for sure. I even done an experiment with a chain that had 10 degrees tilt on it and one that didn't. I couldn't pick the difference, so that was the end of that. Anyway, if we have a look, picture being displayed now, that was filed with a file at 90 degrees or dead flat. That's what the tooth looks like. You can actually see because good magnification on the camera, so it really shows every little detail there. The next picture being displayed is with 10 degrees downward tilt. Now, I had a close look. I really can't see, I can't really see much in it. I did remember reading the Carlton Complete Handbook, and when they got down to the 10 degrees tilt, there wasn't much written in there, but what they said that if you looked at a full chisel and you look at the outside corner and you look at the inside corner of the tooth, the whole idea of having a 10 degree downward tilt was to line up the inner corner and the outer corner. But when I measured that digitally, I came up with a 20 degree angle between the bottom corner and the top corner. So what I will do is just show you exactly what I mean by that. So this is a tooth. So what they're saying that if you were to measure, I'll just try and refocus there. They're trying to say that if you were to measure from this bottom corner here to that corner, the 10 degree downward tilt really helps in this area here. That's what it does. That's my take on it. That's what it sort of doesn't go into any other detail. It just says the bottom corner and the top corner with 10 degrees downward tilt is more aligned. So in other words, they're virtually saying it's more efficient. Now, that may have been the case back in the day, but a lot of geometry has changed since then. So the next tooth we have a look at looks a little bit like X-cut and Hexa, doesn't it? That's what I'm starting to see lately. A lot of the teeth coming out on the full chisel really start to look like that. We look at the next one. The next one, the top plate cutting angle goes down fairly straight for about, close enough to about 1.5 millimeters on that beveled edge. So that beveled edge that you see, it goes down about 1.5 millimeters. So we look at a normal tooth, we're talking about this beveled edge here, going down about 1.5 millimeters on the side plate. That's starting to become really common, what I'm seeing at the moment. Now the next one being displayed shows you 40 degrees top plate cutting angle. That's 40 degrees from zero. So on an Oregon, that would be 50 degrees. So that's pretty common on a lot of the still USG grinders, 40 degrees top plate cutting angle, which is A scale. Also, full chisel is 25 degrees top plate. This particular chain is Hurricane chain from Jono and Jono in Ballarat. Look, I highly recommend it. It really is durable. So, is the 10 degrees downward tilt dead? Well, certainly not with probably the hand filers. And it's not dead on the USG chart or on one of the Still's technical manuals here, because on this Still technical manual, you'll find that says B, where you see B. B is the slidable vise on a Still, so where my finger is, that's a slidable vise. And it's got plus 15 for the right-hand cutters and minus 15 for the left. Then if we look at the USG chart for the Still USG grinder, plus and 15, which is in millimetres, although it doesn't state it, but it is. Plus and 15 go all the way down, right down here, until we get to the tungsten carbide and the rapid hexa, which doesn't have it either. So, interesting enough, there is no reference on this USG chart here that turns around and tells you the minus 15 and the positive. It just says 0, but I actually measured it with a caliper, the scale on the side of a Still USG, and it's minus 40, plus 40, put a caliper on there, you've got 80 millimetres. So it's a millimetre scale, yet the funny part about it, it's not listed, so that's not a, yeah. And they don't use it on rapid hexa. So in that fourth picture, that last one that we just displayed, this is typically what you're seeing on Husqvarna's X-Cut. They come in at 45-degree angle, so that's quite aggressive. And it's around about 1.5 millimetres, comes in on that top plate cutting angle. On the side plate, you can see that coming in for quite a distance also. So that seems to be where I'm seeing where we're headed, having that little sharp point coming down on that angle, that nice little angle there. And that's what I'm seeing compared to, if we look at the 10 degrees downward tilt, it was probably for over 30 years. Hang on, yeah, look, it would have been, I think it was about after the mid-90s, Still stopped recommending it. So, you know, it's over 30 years, the 10 degrees downward tilt was recommended. And not much really changed between, you had chipper chain, you had full chisel, and you had semi-chisel. Typically not a lot changed. A lot of the chipper chain was fairly thick and heavy duty type chain with a much more rounded corner, much more rounded than the semi-chisel. The chipper chain was invented by Joseph Cox in Portland, Oregon, and the semi-chisel chain was invented by Ray Carlton, and the full chisel was also invented by Joseph Cox as well. So where we are today is the latest is with Still's Hexa, which they say that was made for the forestry industry, whether they're talking about harvester chains or whether they're talking about hand cutting. I guess it doesn't matter. And X-Cut doesn't come in 063 gauge, unfortunately. So, yeah, whereas Hexa comes in 063 gauge. So that's my take on it. I don't think that the 10 degrees downward tilt is dying, but it's certainly not as popular as what it was. While Oregon promote it, the hand filers are going to use it. The grinders will use it. The Still USG chart, if you own a Still USG, you'll get all the angles on the chart, and I've got a great video on that because I own a Still USG. Personally, I think that the gain that you get from 10 degrees downward tilt is minimal. It's not a game changer. I don't think it ever was meant to be a game changer, but there is a slight benefit when it thins out that edge of that tooth and makes it, changes the geometry slightly. So, yeah, there is probably a little bit of a gain. I'm not saying that there's not. You've got to be the judge whether you think the gain is worthwhile or there's very little in the gain. I never found a huge amount of gain in it to warrant using it on a regular basis. I like to use Hexa at the moment. Even my grinding wheel, if I set my grinding wheels up even on this Oregon type grinder so that I'm grinding Hexa. if we can sort of get up there and have a bit of a look, we'll zoom in. I find it very easy to profile the grinding wheel. That's my hexagonal profile. I find it much quicker and faster to profile the grinding wheel and get a beautiful hexagonal type cut. So this works really good. This is a really good grind. I can highly recommend it. Anyway, that's my take on the 10 degrees. As I said, I don't think it's a game changer. I think the Hexa is much more so than the 10 degrees tilt and the X-Cut. So that's what the Hexa wheel look like. Now, one thing that I will say is that with a file, there's only so much you can do, and there's very little you can do. It's going to give the C shape in the tooth, whereas a grinding wheel, you can profile any shape that you want. So the grinder is very versatile and goes way beyond what a file can do, as I've just shown you with the Hexa profile. So Hexa profile is totally different. It doesn't have 10 degrees downward tilt. Not too sure about Husqvarna's X-Cut. It's not written on the box. I'd have to look on the website and try and do a search for that. But if you ran a file through Husqvarna's X-Cut around file, you're going to destroy the little pointy tip on there. So there's no point manufacturing a tooth that has a real pointy bit, and a round file will destroy it. So this is where the grinding wheel comes in. And you can profile this to Husqvarna's X-Cut, so that's not an issue or a problem there. And that's why I love a grinder, because it is, you can do a lot with a grinder. A file can't duplicate what a grinder does, whereas a grinder can duplicate what a file does, and much more. So that's my take on it. The only thing that I would say, and if we have a look at this picture here briefly, this is a full chisel tooth that has been filed at 90 degrees with holding the file straight. As you can see, look, there's a little tiny bit of hook on there, but I don't think anything to worry about. So what we'll do next, we'll show you a picture that was filed with 10 degrees downward tilt. I'll look at that one now. And as you can see, if you look at the point, it changes the point a little bit. And if I go back many years ago, I always remember the whole idea of 10 degrees downward tilt was to get rid of that hook. And that certainly does that. If you use 10 degrees downward tilt and you've got a pointy tooth, that will reduce that point. There's also other claims. People turn around and say that with a 10 degrees downward tilt, it thins out the working corner of the tooth, and that makes it more durable and lasts longer between sharpening. So the other thing that I've heard is, you know, 10 degrees downward tilt can help evacuate the chips from the chain. So I've heard that claim as well. Yeah, so there's been a few claims out there, but and it's interesting what Ray Carlton wrote in his paper. We'll just put that up one more time. So this is what Ray Carlton said about a 10 degrees downward tilt. Interesting. Anyway, that's probably as much as I can say about 10 degrees downward tilt. There's been quite a few videos on it. It's either use it or don't use it. Choice is yours. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.